Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me. I've got Mara Rutherford here and Kristin Dwyer. So Mara Rutherford began her writing career as a journalist, but quickly discovered she far prefers fantasy to reality. Originally from California, Mara has since lived all over the world along with her Marine-turned-diplomat husband. A triplet born on Leap Day, Mara holds a master's degree in cultural studies from the University of London. When she's not writing or chasing after her two sons, she can usually be found pushing the boundaries of her comfort zone, whether at a traditional Russian banya or an Incan archaeological site. She's the author of Crown of Coral and Pearl and the sequel, Kingdom of Sea and Stone, which just released today. You can connect with Mara on her website at www.mararutherford.com. She'll be in conversation today with Kristin Dwyer. Kristin Dwyer is the author of Some Mistakes Were Made. She grew up under the California sun and still prays every day for a cloudy sky. When she's not writing books about people kissing, Kristin works as a part-time hair model, but is full-time TSA pre-check. One time, a credible news outlet asked for her opinion on K-pop. It was the best day of her life. Please do not talk to her about your fandom. She will try to join in. So I'm going to kick it over to the two of them and sort of let them go. Thank you both so much for doing this with us today.
Yes, thank you, Drew. We appreciate it. Yes, Mara, your book is out.
It's out.
How do you feel?
I feel relieved in a way that it's, there's a lot of build up and now it's here and happy that it's here. So. Yeah.
Me too, because I finished your book a year ago and was like, well, what happens now? Like that was a hell of a cliffhanger, friend. So so I'm going to jump right in, and I actually really wanted to know, did you always know that you were going to tell this story in two parts?
So when I first came up with the idea, and the book, was originally called Coral and Pearl, and I did want it to be a duology, but I'd never written a sequel before. And this was actually the first, full fantasy that I'd written. And, I didn't know if it was ever going to sell or what would happen with it. So, and I think it's common advice to new authors or debut authors to, it could be open-ended for a sequel, but you should make it a complete story. And so that was kind of what I tried to do. And then, I didn't know until Crown of Coral and Pearl had already gone to print if there was going to be a sequel. I sold the rights after it was already in arcs and everything. So,
really?
Play it both ways and hope that it would stand on its own, but leave enough for a sequel. And I'm glad that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, because if you would have ended the book that way, we'd be having a whole different conversation. Like I would be in your DMs yelling at you because it ended, and I was like, ugh. And I think one of the things that we are friends and we have read each other's work several times, and I am always in awe of your world building, but specifically in this book, the picture that you've painted for the reader, the world is just. I was not ready to leave, so if you would have only given me one, we would have been fighting for sure. It actually is so, there were a lot of times where I was like, a book is good when, and somebody's amazing at characterization when you want to know more about these side characters. So when we're, on the ocean, I was like, okay, wait, stop. I need to know everything about this person. And the mom and the dad, and everybody I felt like was so completely actualized. I have a hard time not writing my own fan fiction in the moment. I was like, I could do that, right? That's right. I was also really obsessed with the way that Zadie and Noor talk about each other, or that Noor talks about Zadie. And I loved everything to do with the sister. I know that you're triplet. I know that you and your sister are really close, but I thought even more so than just two sisters being really close, the way that they talked about each other was so special. There is a line where she's talking about the only way she'd be able to watch her sister grow old is in the mirror, and I was like, dang, right in my heart. It was so good. So how much did you pull from your own relationship with your sister, and how much of that was just Nor and Zadie and their specific
a lot of it is pulled from my relationship with my sister, and I think she's listening. So Sarah, hi, if you're there. Yeah, I mean, I a lot of fantasy books use twins as a trope, and I like that. But I wanted to do it in a way that reflected what for me at least, the twin experience is like, especially being an identical twin. And so a lot of their relationship is from our real relationship. So I hope that translates in the story. So
yeah, I'm wondering, because people use twins as a trope. Do you ever feel like when you're reading that trope that it's harder for you to relate? Can you tell when somebody is not a twin?
I mean, I don't like to say, well, I know better because I'm a twin, because obviously every relationship is different, and the relationship I have with my twin is not the same as every other. But it does bother me when the twins hate each other, which I feel like happens a lot in YA stories. Not to say that my sister and I never fight, or we haven't had periods where we've been mad at each other, or we don't find faults in each other. Obviously, we do. But when the twins don't have a special bond, then I'm like, this isn't accurate. But I can't speak for everyone. I just for me, it doesn't feel true to me.
That's awesome, because I really admired Mara and Zadie and Nora's relationship, and so it was almost as important as Talon and that whole relationship, and her relationship with everybody, and not just because it was used as a catalyst, but it was almost the romantic arc, but it was like the sibling romantic. We need a better word for bromance and things like that. We really, really do. Also, my son's name is Talon, so that was hard for me. And then listening to it, because when I read it, it's Talin, but when I was listening to it, it was for sure his name, and I was like, nope, la 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 la. But I have so many questions about the second book that I need to have answered for myself. But I think probably the most important one is, does Talon take off his shirt in this book? Am I going to see him shirtless?
Now I'm trying to remember. I think yes. Yes, there is, yes.
This is give the people what they want.
I don't know how detailed I get into the explanation of it, but yes, there's bronze muscular chest in there somewhere. So
I loved the romance. I thought you was such a genius the way that you played the romance, because the whole time she's wondering to herself, can I trust him? Is he going to out me? I mean, sorry, spoiler. But the romance is genius. And then I really thought her relationship with oh my god, I just blanked on his name because I didn't have this question written down. What's it?
Saren?
Yes, Saren. I thought her relationship with him was super clever, and writing a villain that way, where you kind of almost have sympathy for him. Can you talk a little bit more about writing characters that are even the mom? She's super complex, but you also feel because you feel bad for them. So can you talk a little bit more about that characterization?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important that even the villains are three-dimensional. No one is pure evil, right? Well, maybe a few people on Earth, but for the most part, I think even the really bad people usually have some other side to them, and something that made them the way they are. And so, I wanted to show Saren as he does terrible things, but also that terrible things were kind of done to him. And so, and Nor is such an empathic person that she is going to see the good in anyone, even someone who's done terrible things to her. So, and the mom, I think it's the same thing. The mom is a product of the way she was raised. And so she kind of thinks she wants the best for her daughters, but it's what she thinks would be best for them, not what is actually best for them. So
yeah, I thought it was really I thought it was really, really good. I thought the characterization of everybody was really good. And do you have any, because I'm sure there are writers listening, do you have any tips for like your amazing characterization? Because I was so inspired by it, like honestly.
I don't know, therapy maybe? I don't know, maybe I think psychology is a big aspect of it. Not that I'm a psychologist, but I am in therapy, and I've been in therapy, and I do read books on psychology and listen to podcasts about psychology. And also, my sister Sarah has introduced me to a lot of those, so I'll give her credit for that. Yeah, and I think just reading books that have complex characters. I don't think I can take all the credit for it. I'm sure that it's from the books that I've read, and I know which ones appeal to me and which ones don't. And probably the biggest one for me would be Lee Bardugo's characters, because Shadow and Bone was one of the first YA fantasy books that I read, and I have been in love with the Darkling ever since. So I think that definitely gets in there. It gets into my writing. So yeah.
The Darkling, the greatest tease of all time. I'm still I need a Darkling book. So I also think that the reason this book is so great is because it is all of the characterization, this crazy plot with like this amazing, elaborate political drama that's playing out, which I thought was so genius. Look at my face. So genius. I have read, I know that you do this. So I read your other books, and I know that you are so good at these plots. But like the whole time I just kept thinking, everything plays off of each other. All the threads always tie together, right? Like, and that is something, well, yeah, let's see. Don't disappoint me with this next book. No pressure. But like, I really was in awe of all that. But then there were also so many details that I felt like were things that I was like, there's no way. So one of my questions is, do you ride horses? Because in other books you've written, there are horses that they ride. And I'm like, I have never been on a horse. I could never ride it this way. Do you ride?
So I grew up riding horses from the time I was like 2. My mom always had horses. So my sister and I always rode. We had ponies when we were little, and then horses as we got older. So yes. So I think every book I've written has at least one horse in it. It just
I was like, wait, she did this in the other books. She's good at this. And the stuff at the ocean, in one of the places that you stayed, I know California, it didn't feel like a California ocean to me. So like
that I can't credit with any real life experience. I mean, we did travel a lot growing up, and my parents were scuba divers. So we did spend time in, tropical environments, I guess. But I'm not a big ocean person. I'm actually kind of afraid of the ocean. So,
really?
Yeah. It's like space to me. It's just anything there. I don't know what's going on. It's scary. Yeah. So I like to look at the ocean. I like to be near the ocean. I don't like to be in the ocean.
Actually, yeah, you definitely belong in the mountain. Which, no, you need sunlight. I was like, the minute she got in the mountain.
No. The mountain.
I'm such a spoiler. I'm spoiling everything. Okay, see, this is
one, right?
I'm probably not. I don't know. Like, listen, this is why you can't just have a conversation with your friend, because it's like too easy to think this is FaceTime. So, Lauren Bailey says preach. So, okay. I have a question about drafting from book 1 to book 2. What was different about the second book when you were drafting it versus drafting the first book?
Well, so with the first book, you have unlimited time, right? You don't have deadlines unless you set them for yourself. And so Crown of Coral and Pearl went through so many revisions between my first agent, losing my first agent, revising on my own, signing with my second agent, revising with him, revising with my editor multiple times. So it's just a totally different process. I mean, I started writing Crown of Coral in 2015. So it was like a 4-year lead up to when it came out. Kingdom of Sea and Stone, I started writing last June. So it was a much shorter period of time. I think we finished drafting it in like October. And then my editor, Yard left, and then I got a new editor, and then at Christmas I got another editor. So it was just a very different process. And
so when you're writing it, was it easier because you had established characters, you had established world, you weren't doing like all the groundwork? Was that easier or harder?
That was definitely easier. I mean, I introduced some different parts of the world in this book, but I had a long time to think about it, and I knew, even though I didn't know for sure there would be a sequel, I knew what I wanted to happen in a sequel if there was one. So I was really at an advantage. We sold it obviously on proposal, so it was just basically a synopsis and the first chapter, I think. And it stayed pretty true to the synopsis, I think. Some things always change, but no, it was definitely easier. I would not have been able to do a book start to finish in a year. It was all from
yeah, I'm gonna do that. So, Daniel wants to know if he can ask a spoilery question. Are you okay with spoiler questions, or do you want this to be spoiler free?
About book 2? I mean, I'm fine. People can cover their ears. Try to answer it as spoiler free as possible.
Okay. Okay. So I met you through Pitch Wars. Mm-hmm. And when I had met you through Pitch Wars, it was because you were a mentor, but you didn't have your book out. And I remember getting to know you and just the amount of time that you spent on me and my career, and really like encouraging me as a fellow writer, was instrumental for me and my career path. And so I really cannot undersell how grateful I truly am for you and for what you did for me personally. But I know that you've done that with like a lot of people in the community, and you touched a little bit on the fact that you have gone through multiple agents. And I am assuming that there are people in this chat that are writers, and not everybody, their path to publishing is a straight line. So I was wondering if you would not mind sharing a little bit about your journey to sitting here with book 2.
Sure. Well, I want to say that I love you, and it was always a pleasure to work with you. So it was never work. It was always fun. Well, let's see. So I started writing. I wrote my first book in 2004 when I had been laid off from my job and I had nothing else to do and nowhere to go. And I was living with my then fiance and in South Texas. And I had always wanted to write a book. Never thought that I could. And I figured that was my time. I started it. I made my twin sister start it with me. I think she wrote about 2 chapters, and then I kept going on my own. I got started, wrote a horrible query letter comparing it to Harry Potter, so you can imagine how well that went over. I think I got 1 rejection, and I was like, okay, I'm not ready for this. And then I started going to conferences. I interned for a literary agent. This was when I lived in San Diego. And then I was working. My husband deployed. I got laid off from another job. And then I wrote 2 more books that year, and got somewhere with them, started learning about how to query and what it was all about. At least, I sort of knew the process at that point, although it was very different back in 2007 because it wasn't all online like it is now. Yeah. And there weren't blogs, and there weren't all these blogs. And then we moved to the Washington, D.C. area. I wrote another book, got lots of rejection from that. Yeah, so that happened about and so it might be a lot of you.
You're cutting in and out a bit for me.
I don't know what's causing that.
Probably the internet across the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, Pitch Wars really was what changed everything for me. I felt like I couldn't get past that final hurdle until I got into Pitch Wars finally on my third attempt, I think, with a third book.
And what year was that?
I got it in 2014. So my younger son was an infant, and so I did the revisions with I guess he was probably like 5 months old, 6 months old at the time, and that was all crazy, and did really well in the agent round. Back then, there was not nearly as many agents who participated, so I think I got 12 requests, which was my friend Ellie had gotten 13, but 12 was a lot for them. That she had the highest number, so 12 was good.
Ellie Blake, who did I loved her books. Yeah.
Yes. So Ellie and I did, of course, at the same time, and we are still good friends and critique partners. So and then I got a call from Uva, who was my current agent, about a week after Pitch Wars, maybe less than a week.
Oh wow!
And three offers signed with my former agent. Yeah, and then that book didn't sell, and then we broke up, and then I asked Uva to give me a second chance, and he did, and then the rest is history. So,
I think that's really interesting because I think the idea is that you get the agent and then they're the one for you. But most of the people I know have gone through multiple agents. I think it's more common to have to try on a couple agents before you find it's like dating, right? But so when you went into Pitch Wars, you directly went then into being a mentor the following year, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so how many years did you mentor for?
3 years. Yep.
So you mentored 3 years, and you gave countless feedback to people who were in your inbox, and then obviously 3 amazing people who ended up in the showcase. And
they all got agents, and there's going to be some other news soon, I think. So, yeah.
And so when that happened, were there times where you felt like people were kind of surpassing you where you were at, and how'd that feel? Like, I mean, how did you keep going?
I think both of my first 2 mentees, Joan Hay and Astrid Schulte, they both got deals before me. So that was hard. It's hard to say now that I'm standing on the other side of it.
Yeah.
It feels like it was so long ago. But yeah, of course it was hard at the time. It's so hard not to be jealous. And I'm still jealous of people. And I've now sold 5 books. And I still am jealous. I know. But I do think that the biggest piece of writing advice, other than to just keep going, is to keep your eyes on your own paper and, follow your path and try to remember that yours isn't anyone else's, and that I couldn't write the books that those people wrote. I mean, I wish I could, but I'm not them, and they couldn't write what I write, and that's okay. And I'm actually really happy with where everything ended up. So far, so good. Yeah.
I think that you should be, because I went into my local Barnes & Noble to buy your book, obviously, when it came out the week that it came out. And I'm really good friends with our local Barnes. We don't have an indie. We only have Barnes & Noble. So I'm really good friends with the manager there. And I'm like, so what are they excited about on the shelf? And, what's excited, what's going through. And it had been a few days. And she said that Coral and Pearl, she just kept selling it. People kept picking it up. And then right before I moved here, which was like, 2 weeks ago, I went in to tell her I was moving, and your book was still face out. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mara's book's still face out. And she goes, people love that book. It was the only thing they were excited for months. And now that the sequel's coming out, people are still super excited about it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just like my local Barnes & Noble, like people just have a really great taste or whatever. And so then I went into one here on the opposite coast in North Carolina, and it was face out here too as well. And I was like, man, like it really goes to show that, like, good books, people really just need good books, like, solid world building, great characterization, kissy kiss time, romance, and a heroine that is somebody that they can relate to. I felt like Nora was so easy to relate to, and then and then there's those moments where for me it took me a long time to get an agent and get where I am, and I like sitting there and like having the surreal moment, be like, she did it. And it makes me teary-eyed, because it's just like, I know how hard it was to get here and how hard you worked. And it, for me, seeing people like you who had done the thing, who had really worked hard to, to stay focused and keep their eyes on their own paper and all those things, and all the advice you gave me, and knowing how hard you worked, to see your book on the shelf was like so validating. Like, we could do it, guys. Yep. Mara did it. We could do it. So yeah.
And I never had any doubt that you would do it either. I mean, I really think that I would say, like, it's getting published is a combination of talent, perseverance, and luck. And everybody has a different combination of those things. And for me, I feel like persisting was my 90% of that equation for me. Maybe 5% talent and 5% luck. The rest of it was like, I'm just going to keep coming at publishing until it finally gets me in.
Someone will love me. Yeah. Do you because when you were doing Pitch Wars, I'm sure you got countless queries, and it's kind of like being an agent. Mm-hmm. Were there like do's and don'ts that like you would tell writers, like, this is why these books didn't work? Or
I mean, honestly, when I worked for that literary agent back in 2005 or 2006, I mean, I saw the craziest query letters you could imagine. There was one that was from the point of view of a golf ball. It was like insanity. So like, I think maybe back then it was really easy for agents to leave stuff out.
Yeah.
But now that there's so much information, there's Query Shark, there's all these resources for how to write a query. Yeah. So many authors are so generous with sharing their queries and how they got their agent and all these things, that honestly, in Pitch Wars, everything was worth reading. Like, every letter was, I mean, maybe there were a few that weren't, but no one sent me something that I was just like laughing at it. I think people like know what they're doing, and they know that Pitch Wars has really high standards, which is why agents flock to it, because they know that they're getting really good content.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is to have an idea that stands out. When everybody's query is well written and the right formula and doesn't have any of the rookie mistakes, it's really just a matter of a plot, an idea that is different from everything else. I mean, I think that's partly why you books stood out to me. I mean, I hadn't read any water sci-fi. That's what you look for, obviously. So, yeah. So it just had to be something unique. Our third, her book was this traveling hotel, and it was like one of those simple ideas, also brilliant, and you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of things. Or it's such and such meets such and such in some really brilliant combination, that you haven't thought about. Those are the ones that really stand out. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I have some questions that you got from your Instagram, which we touched on one of them. Which book was harder to write for you? Was it the first book or the second book? And I feel like it might be the first.
No, because the first book, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know I could write whatever I wanted because there was no one telling me this isn't working. There was no, So especially the first 100 pages of Crown of Coral and Pearl, it was all very like stream of conscience. Most of it, well, it did change because I had to condense a lot of it, but a lot of it stayed the same. And then I did have to rewrite the second half of Crown a couple times. So I guess in that way it was hard. The harder thing about writing a sequel is that you have people's expectations, and I don't want to let anyone down. And so that's been like, at first, and when my first book came out, and I would see the negative reviews, there's this part of you that wants to prove those people wrong. And then I had to be like, no, wait, I'm not writing it for the people. I'm not writing book 2 for the people that didn't like book 1. I'm writing book 2 for the people that liked book 1 and want more of book 1. But then there was this pressure of, what if I don't give them what they want? People now have expectations of me, and I don't want to let anyone down. So that was harder in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I always hear people say is don't read your reviews, because even the good ones can get in your head, right? And I read your reviews because one, I am a weirdo and I stalk my friends, but then two, because before we did this, I just wanted to see what people are saying and about the book, and overwhelmingly positive, except for some people seem to think that Talon is theirs, and I'm like, well, he's my boyfriend, but that's okay. So I mean, it was really neat to be like, yeah, I know she's good at that. You're right. Yes, correct. Her world building is Parna, and that's right. Yeah, like
I'm really bad about the not reading your reviews advice.
Really?
I read almost all my reviews. Yeah, I know.
Do you like drink as you do it, or?
No, honestly, I mean, I don't. At the beginning, I read like when Crown of Coral and Pearl was on NetGalley, I was reading like daily, and the first few were great, and I was super happy, and then I got some scathing ones, and I spiraled, and it was horrible. Oh, yeah. And I was pretty good about staying off of it for a while, and then there just end up being a lot, and you can't really keep up unless you're checking every day. And fortunately, I got away from that, but. When Kingdom Sea and Stone went up on NetGalley, I think I've read every NetGalley review this time, and yeah, I mean, it's not healthy. I'm just so curious.
I don't recommend it. I stated I was in therapy, obviously. Okay, the next question is, what was it like to get to continue to tell the story? And we kind of touched a little bit on that, but
nice, because I did have an ending in mind for these characters, and it would have been sad if I'd had to like leave them sort of floundering in the world, without giving them a resolution. So it was really nice that I had the opportunity, and I'm very grateful. So.
I am too, because I would have, and I'm not exaggerating, been like, okay, when do you think this will be in my inbox? And I didn't want to leave the world too, so I think most readers are like me. What came easiest when writing? Was there any particular scene? Is there something you like writing more of, or what is your favorite thing to write in your stories?
I think I really like writing action scenes, oddly. Like, I really like writing the monster scene in book 1. I'll leave it at that.
That was amazing!
And, yeah, in book 3, which is obviously not related, but Luminous, which comes out next year, there's a dark and scary part, and I really like writing that stuff.
That was my favorite part. Remember? I was like, this is my favorite part. Okay, keep going.
So I do like writing that stuff. I'm not great at fight scenes, though. I will say that, because I don't know a lot about sword fighting and things like that, So, but and I like writing banter. I like writing conversation, dialogue. I feel like comes pretty easily to me. I don't know if other people would concur, but I enjoy doing that. I don't feel like I'm great, even though everyone has been very kind and good in my world building. I feel like I'm not great at description. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting that you say that. So the world building part is like your least favorite?
No, I love world building, but I feel like I don't have a knack for like beautiful descriptive prose. I think I can like infuse the details maybe in a different way, but I don't think I have the skill for really like poetic language, I guess.
That's so interesting that you say that, because let me critique partner you for a little bit. I think what's so funny about the way that you write your world is always how it relates to the character. So I think when I read your books, I feel like the thing that's most important to you is characterization, your characters first. And then the world around it is important, and it's so clear because it relates to the character. So everything that's happening in there is really about them, I feel like. So, because I'm like listening to you and you're like, I'm world building, and I'm like, but you're so good at it. But I think it's because you're really good at that. So, yeah. I had a question, but then I forgot it because then I started thinking about why you're good at stuff. So I spiraled. Sorry. I'm going to be on track, I promise. Somebody, okay, this is for real though. Somebody said, is it bad shipping Nor with the villain and hoping for a redemption arc? And I was like, at one point, I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, maybe I should love him a little bit more. Maybe I should give him a chance. So is it bad? Are we bad people?
No, it's not bad. I love Saren, so no.
You do?
I do. He's my favorite character to write, actually, and
really?
yeah, I love writing villains. You know that. You've read Luminous, you know.
I sure do.
So no, I don't think it's bad at all. I understand. I kind of ship them a little bit myself, so
they definitely have chemistry. Like, yeah. I didn't just make that up, right?
No, they have some chemistry for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of love triangle, but I would say that it could gone either way there for a while. And then he does some things that I think really are irredeemable, or he can't be saved at a certain point. But
yeah, nail in the coffin. I was like, oh no, I guess I don't want to make out with him anymore. If he does this, but it was like super unforgivable. So like it had to go to that point where I was like, dang it. And then I was disappointed because I was like, you had so much promise. I definitely wanted to ship you with her, but yeah, no, I think you made the right call for sure. Because Talon is just the best, and you never really. Anyways,
I know I don't want to go into spoiler territory.
Yeah. Did you enjoy writing the romance?
I did. Yeah. It's funny. I think in my 20s, like romance. I read a lot of like literary fiction in my 20s. I felt like I needed to read all the books that were on the all the lists of everybody should have read these books or whatever.
Yeah.
And I really started to love YA, and I love romance novels and movies with romance, and it just matters to me now. So yeah, I can't imagine writing a book without romance at this point. I think yeah.
I can't imagine reading one of your books without romance, honestly. Another question is no, that's it. I think that's all the questions we have. So I actually, if you guys have any more questions, ask them now, because I'm going to jump into my speed round with Mara and ask her. These are just fun questions. They're silly. All you have to do is just say the first thing that pops off the top of your head. Okay? Sea or mountain?
I feel like people want me to say sea. And I'm not really a mountain person. Can I pick rolling hills?
Sure. Okay. We'll allow. Vampires or fairies?
Wow. These are hard. Fairies as in like fae, as in like Sarah Maas fairies?
Yeah, I think so. That.
Yeah.
Okay. And then princes or bad guys?
Bad guys.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Pink pearls or blood coral?
Blood coral.
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, I don't care how many of those things I got to eat to be pretty. I'd still like to, stab somebody. Long walks or long drives?
Oh, walks for sure.
Walks. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
The London fog, right? That's what you drink?
Well, I drink chais a lot, and if I can go to a cafe, which has been, 7 or 8 months since I've done that.
What was coffee like? Okay, East Coast or West Coast?
Ooh, I think Montana. Can I pick the middle? I mean,
safe, super safe.
Like a California. Yeah.
Peru or Serbia?
I think I've got a little bit of a lag here.
Oh, sorry, I said Peru or Serbia.
Oh, these are hard.
Debbie's choice.
Peru for traveling, Serbia for living. If that
works. You can answer. This is your thing. You can answer however you want.
Okay.
Carden or the Darkling?
Carden.
I was like, I think she's the Darkling.
Sophie's choice right there. That was difficult.
I know, it's so good. Okay, one TV show that you would recommend?
I'll just be basic and say Schitt's Creek because I'm watching the last season right now. So.
Oh, Schitt's Creek is the shits. It's so good. My sister-in-law was like, I know you're on a writing retreat, but you need to get your life together and like priorities straight and binge the final season. So I was like, fine. And then the last book that you read that you would recommend?
The last book I read that I really loved was Beach Read, and her name is Emily. I'm not going to remember her last name.
Emily Henry.
Yes.
I know who she is.
Yeah.
Love that book.
I actually saw it because Jeff Sentner put something on his Instagram about it. So then I went and followed Emily, and it was like a Kindle deal. So I bought it and I loved it. And I've been recommending it to everyone. So
I had somebody email me and be like, Patricia Riley, she messaged me and she was like, can I send you this book? Because it was a month before it came out. And I was like, I mean, if you want to, weirdo. And then when I got it, I was like, oh, now I know why, because this book has consumed my life and I can't do anything. So I have more questions. Okay. So this is from Daniel. So when you're writing a love triangle, in this case, kind of a love triangle, it seems like there is a tendency to make the choice tricky because of being interested in both characters. In your book, though, it's more the drama. The drama is more because of the politics. That is so cool. What made you write it this way, or am I totally off the mark?
No, I don't think you're off the mark at all.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I guess for Nor, she's not driven by romance, at least at the beginning of the book, right? She's trying to save her people and make things better for her family and this place that she loves, even though it doesn't always love her. So her decisions kind of had to be made around that. I think since that's her driving factor when I was writing, her possible love interest, she's always putting everyone else first before she's thinking about herself. So I think that sort of shaped the romance, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my answer. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved what Daniel was saying, like how the backbone of the story, I think the tendency is always to kind of make the backbone romance, but it was so much the political intrigue. And so the romances played into the politics, right? So it wasn't just like, there's this romance and then there are these politics. It was like them feeding each other. And again, so genius, because everything goes back to each other. Just like really a big fan. So Daniel says cool, and thanks so much. And then Lauren has a question. She says, in which ways are you most like Nor? And which ways do you wish you were more like her?
Well, I think like Nor, obviously my family is really important to me. And my friends too. I mean, I think I'm pretty loyal to my friends and family. And I hope so anyways.
I would concur.
She's a lot braver than I am, obviously. I don't think I could fight a monster like she can. And, you know, she's maybe a little bit more impetuous than I am. Like, I'm a planner. I like things that are predictable. I like a schedule. Nor can sort of make these last minute decisions that I don't think I would ever make.
Go to the mainland, guys. I'm like, girl, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, she, you know, like when she makes these decisions, a lot of the time though, she makes these decisions out of her empathy for other people. Like even the thing with, you know, at the lake, you know, we're talking about the scary lake. She makes that decision because she doesn't want someone else to suffer. And like you talk so much, and it's more than that with her, right? So it's not just that she's like it's not just that she's, you know, a good person or whatever, but like these are things that have been trained in her by her culture, and like it's more than just I feel this way. It's who she is and who she is in her people, like in relation to her people. So I just like, man, every time I would forget, like every time I would wander a little bit, like, hey, we're in the mountain, you'd like bring us back to the sea, and I'd be like, just so smart. Lauren sent you a heart. So, so I think we are done with questions, and I can just thank you so much for talking with me. And I wanted to be professional, but I just cannot because I'm a huge fan. Also your friend, but a huge fan. And you can get both of Mara's books and support a local independent bookstore by shopping with Town Book Center, who is hosting this event right now. And if you're not local to Pennsylvania, you can always shop online at townbc.com, town with an E, bc.com. And if audiobooks or ebooks are more your thing, then you can still shop with Town Book Center. They do offer audio and ebook options, which is amazing. So, and I do want to thank Town Book Center for hosting Mara because, you know, pandemics are crazy and they've done such a great job. So, yay.
I want to say thank you to Drew and everyone at Town Book Center. Yeah, you know, I was supposed to go on a book tour this fall, and obviously that didn't happen. And so I'm grateful that we still can connect this way. And I love you, Kristin. Thank you for doing this with me. You're the best.
You are the best.
I don't know who's on this call because I can't see who's in it. Thank you. Okay. And that's it.
All right. I love you, and everyone have a wonderful time. Stay safe. Wash your hands. We love you.